and
Hello.
welcome to the Nerd Crew podcast.
That's
Nerd
I'm,
us.
Crew. Who is that, Joe? What do they do?
That's
it's
us. What are
it's
you talking
Red
about?
Letter Media's fake podcast that they do to make fun of other podcasts.
Okay,
That's
so they make fun
funny.
of us
Yes.
as nerds.
Uh-huh.
Wow, fucked up, Red Letter Media. Thought you were better than that.
No,
Uh,
that'd be-
we're the Roundabout cast, actually.
yeah.
Recording after a 2 week break. That's kind of getting usual. It's either if you want to know our schedule, it's either a weekly podcast, except the weeks where it's a bi-weekly podcast, and that's how that goes.
Yeah, weirdly, it's like we have less time to do this lately because it's summer and everyone's going places.
Yeah, it's been real hectic, and probably next week will also
Well,
be a skip year.
also, our work has been catching up to us this past
Yeah,
week.
you know, that exists.
But what that does let us is come out with these big chunky episodes on the weeks we do take a break, like today, because we got a weird selection today. I think it'll be a fun time.
Yeah.
Which I'm Willer, by the way, your host,
My name is Bradley.
I'm Joe.
and what we're gonna talk about first is even just saying the name intrigues me and makes me laugh. We're gonna talk about Video Game High School. Bradley, how could something with a title like this be even remotely good?
That's what I asked myself back when I first started it, and the reason we're talking about this is because I kind of casually rewatched it last week. I just kind of have the episodes on as I was doing other stuff. And the first time I watched it was several years ago, probably back when it was much more new. And yeah, I kind of asked that question myself. One of my friends was like, "Hey, you should watch the series on YouTube. It's really good. It's free. It's all on YouTube." And I heard the name. I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then I even watched like the first 2 episodes, and I was like, "This is the stupidest fucking premise I've ever seen." But I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'll watch a few more episodes." And then 24 hours later, I was like, "What the fuck? I just finished this whole series, and it was amazing." So I guess just brief overview. Video Game High School (VGHS) is about a video game high school.
What does that
Um,
mean, though?
yeah, I guess necessary info about the setting. It's pretty much real world, but there is some wackiness to it. I guess you could say pro sports and like esports are flip flopped. So you'll have like stadiums full of people going to watch like the latest FPS world championship.
So wait, does that mean that regular sports are like niche and more underground then?
I get that vibe, but
I
it's
think
not touched on a whole lot.
I think it's just like that's the most popular one. And like looking from a marketing standpoint, I think
Okay.
that's the one that's most like
It's football in Texas
people
high
kind of get behind
schools.
it. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, this is a world where little kids like if you were to ask a kid what they want to be with a grow up, when they grow up, they would probably be more likely to say they want to be the best RTS player rather than I want to be an NFL player.
A society of gamers, my god.
Yeah. And you even have like the obsessive parents who like, oh, they were the best FPS player in high school, but they had like a wrist injury, so now they try to live through their kid and like make them great.
Oh
Um,
man.
so it is a very wacky setting. And the show does really good at balancing wackiness with extremely serious moments.
What are some examples of that, if you can think of any?
So I kind of wanted to touch on a few distinct moments in the show that I think are shining examples of holy shit, this is really good. Um, One of them I had talked about, which this is just one particular shot in the show that I was freaking out to you guys about the other day,
Oh yeah.
where I think this show actually has some like really cool directing, aside from having like really good shots and really good like color scripts throughout the episode. The director does some really interesting stuff. Um, for one example, at sometime in season 2, the two main characters, they have these best friend pins, And these are like these electronic pins where whenever they're within a few feet of each other, they light up and it says best friends on them, and it's really cute. And they kind of use these pins as moments after, like, whenever they have like a triumphant victory together, they'll like look at their pins and be like, fuck yeah, we're best friends.
Oh my god.
But there's one particular episode where they have their first really big fight, and it kind of stems from it's not even a kind of misunderstanding. You can kind of understand where both of the people are coming from, how they got to this point.
That's always the best kind of fight.
Like, one of the characters, he finally achieved his dream of getting onto the like varsity FPS team. It's like his dream. But then at the same time, he was like involved with a scandal from the main villain of season 1, and his scholarship got revoked. So no one's paying his tuition anymore. So he has to like work in addition to doing practice, in addition to doing class, and he doesn't have any parents to support him. So he's basically up for like 24 hours a day. He can't hang out with his friends anymore. But he's kind of too proud to ask for help or tell anybody about his situation. So his best friend just kind of sees his other friend becoming more distant. And there's a certain part where this friend is like, hey, I'm really sad because, you're not really hanging out with us anymore. And I don't really blame him, because he's not even aware of the situation at this point, because the other guy was too proud to tell him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, hey, I'd really like if you came and hung out with us tonight. And the other guy's situation kind of catches up with him, all that stress, and he snaps really hard at his friend. And he's like, fuck you, why are you so needy? And the guy's like, whoa, like, you need to calm down. So they have a big falling out, which is kind of like the main conflict of that episode. So near the end, all their friends come together, and these two kind of have like they shake hands. They're like, you know what, let's put it behind us. But during this makeup, things are clearly still a little awkward. You can tell there's still bad feelings between them. So they're like, you know what, yeah, well, I'll tomorrow, we're cool. But then after they split up, one of the two is like walking towards the camera, which is like in a dark hallway. And he has like his back to the other one, and you slowly see his best friend pin fade out. Which on a first watch through, I was like, oh, that's still a really cool shot. But I liked it even more on a second watch through, because from this point on in the series, their friendship like devolves into all these disagreements and hatred and mistrust. And I think it was some like really good subtle foreshadowing.
That's really like, that's something where like it would be too cheesy if it was just for the episode, but because they followed through with it, like, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Surprisingly, I guess. Like, that's like, what is the tone of this show like?
It's pretty it's pretty more like jovial than anything, and pretty tongue in cheek with a lot of its stuff. Like, there's a lot of like, I feel like part of it is almost like a satire of the American public school system's obsession with like sports.
It really is.
And it's just like, what if we like, imagine, like, do you see how ridiculous it is with video games? Now, like, it's basically the same thing with high school football, other kind of extracurricular activities and all of that kind of stuff, and shows that like how schools really do glorify those sports.
Yeah, like
other have.
Oh, there's a car alarm going off.
Like, I was gonna say, they're
outside my apartment.
Oh no. There's one point, I think, where they even talk about an athletics club that's there, and they make fun of the guys that are in that athletics club, I feel.
Yeah. I think one part where it does that satire Joe was talking about the best is there's a basement, and then in the basement of the basement is the classroom for what they call the social gamers, which are people who play stuff like Farmville, which they're like the highest rated in the world. but everyone in the school like makes fun of him, like, ah, fuck those guys. And so they live down there, and like they don't have like air conditioning or water, and they all dress like farmers. And they're like, we got to play the game for 18 hours a day just to make do. And they kind of blame like the FPS team, like, oh, the school gives all the funding to the FPS team. They don't care about us.
I remember that. That was a really funny joke.
Yeah,
it was great.
And on that note, like, I think they do really fun and interesting stuff with all the different, like, I guess, like genres of games, because people go to that school for all types of competitive games. There's like the FPS players, there's the fighting game players, there's the racing players, and all of them have like their own distinct personality. Like the RTS people, they all wear suits and just kind of laugh about how smart they are.
Jesus.
And one of the main characters goes and tries to try out for them, and they don't let her because she's not wearing a suit. And then it's funny because there's two different racing like classes.
Episode.
Yeah,
that's a great episode.
Yeah, one of them is for like more serious racing games like Forza, and one of them is for like Mario Kart. But the people who play Mario Kart are like gangsters that live in this hole in the wall.
What?
And the people who play like the more serious racing games are just goofy as fuck.
What? This show seems really surreal and weird, man.
It does. But
I can't get an image of it in my head at all.
It's definitely one of those shows that's really tongue in cheek and really weird, but like it's got such a great cleverness to it. You're like, oh my god, it comes across like every kind of personality you would expect from a gamer in such a great way, in ways I don't think people wouldn't usually think about that. Like, for example, like the businessmen RPG players, like you wouldn't think them that way, but if you really do know what an RPG player that's hardcore into that is, they're number crunchers. They sit there and like figure out the math for like those games and figure out how to really break those systems.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect representation of that character.
So this is really like gamer humor, the show, but it's not cringy. That's the part I can't believe.
That's the other thing is there's a really interesting thing going on with the show. Season 1, the structure is definitely more like a YouTube web series. The episodes are 5 to 10 minutes. And I think the overall plot of season 1 is interesting, but it's not like amazing. Once they started season 2, they figured out that like, holy shit, like we have a really good story we can do here. And so once they started season 2, we moved on from like 5 to 10 minute episodes to like 45-minute episodes, huge budget, some A-list celebrities, and like genuinely good characters. I said it before in our Discord chat that I couldn't believe this character Ted, who I'd call an S-tier character, is in this B-tier show.
That's wow.
He has this, I guess, like to generalize his entire plot line is that his dad is the best rhythm gamer in the world.
This is genuine.
Yeah, and so his dad really actually hates his son, but he pretends that he likes his son, and his son is fooled by it. His son is like, oh, I have the coolest dad in the world, I want to be just like him. He actually sucks at rhythm games, and he's probably the best driving game player in the world. And everyone else can see that his dad hates him. Everyone else can see that he's the best driving game player in the world. But he's like, no, I'm going to be the best rhythm gamer. I'm going to be like my dad. And over the course of these 3 seasons, he has an amazing arc where, like, there's like a few specific landmarks he hits where he's like, maybe I'm not that good at rhythm games. And then he's like, holy shit, I actually am really talented at these driving games. And there's an episode where he's finally able to admit that he doesn't have a good relationship with his dad. And that episode makes me cry every time. Holy shit.
Retweet if you cry every time. Man, that's... Maybe I'll give this a shot at some point. I'll put it low on the list because I still can't believe it.
No,
but like I have to see it at least.
I don't see it being a Super Willer show.
Super Willer.
I don't either. I'm surprised that Bradley actually liked it as well because it's one of those things that I watched a long time ago. I was like, wow, this is a fun little ride I'm having here with this show. I'm actually really surprised with the quality of it. Glad you really liked it.
Yeah, it is strangely high quality.
Yeah, but to also eliminate some kind of extra meta joke to this, the guy that plays Ted's dad, Freddie Wong, when Guitar Hero was around, I think he was like one of the #1 players for that game.
Yeah,
like he held a bunch of leaderboard records. So that's kind of like the other joke, was that he actually was really good at those games in real life. But yeah, also Jimmy Wong runs another channel called
Rocket Jump.
And Rocket Jump, but he also does Command Zone, which is a Magic the Gathering Commander podcast and series, and that's a really high quality like show too. That does a really good job of like presenting how Magic is fun, and like the way they shoot their games is really good too. But I thought I'd just bring that up because he's in those things.
Joe, you just reminded me of another moment I loved with Ted's character where, so he's at an arcade playing a Guitar Hero type game that features his dad in it because his dad's like the best player in the world.
Yeah.
And he beats the game, and the version of his dad in the game is like, "Hey, you're great. We make an awesome team." And he's like sitting on the ground crying. And he says to his friend, he's like, "You have no idea how many times I've beaten this game just to hear him say that."
Wow.
And like,
wow. Okay. That's really good and sad.
It has moments that really hit you. I think we have a ton of stuff to talk about today. If there's one more thing I kind of want to talk about, it's this show has very interesting episode structures. Not all of them are structured the same way at all. For example, there's one episode that is kind of structured like a noir murder mystery deal. Everyone's wearing dresses and suits, and they have the dynamic lighting. There's one episode where they kind of do the Tales of Ba Sing Se thing from Avatar, where it's like 5 or 6 little vignettes that are all complete stories in their own right. Mm-hmm. There's one that's kind of hilarious in season 1 where this character is forced to leave the school, and he goes up to this little arcade that says "Help Wanted." He goes in, he gets a job as a janitor, and then the camera goes up to the sky, and it says "1 day later," and it goes back down, and now the arcade's named after him, and he's wearing a suit, and like he owns the arcade, and everyone's like, "Oh man, it's been so long since you were at school. You need to come back, man." And like the entire episode is just like it's kind of like Willow would say, it's very surreal, but it's still funny, and it works, I guess.
It seems like the writers had a lot of fun writing for this, which is a good sign.
So yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a Willow show, but at the same time, I didn't think it was a me show. And Joe, I think you had the same kind of experience I did, where the first few episodes you're like, "What the fuck?" And then when you finished it, you're like, "Oh my god, that was that was good."
But yeah, like I was expecting like C-tier content at best, and when I finished like the first season, like, wow, that was a pretty like B+ like season of the show. Like, I'm actually impressed. That kept me entertained.
Yeah. So I like that being said, you know, even given our experience, I don't think the show would be for everybody, but season 1 is short enough, I guess, that I'd tell anybody to check it out. But that's VGHS.
Well, there you